What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering. Definitely not using my cat Annie to get likes from all of you, but there's some interesting news. Will Apple or Disney try to buy Activision? Seems like such a bizarre relationship, especially since Disney has publicly said that they have really no interest in doing anything in the video game world. In fact, they've said they are bad at making video games. Activision, obviously, a publisher, an owner of King Games, which makes all the Candy Crush games, games like Call of Duty, and as well as Blizzard's World of Warcraft, Overwatch, and things like that. I'm not sure why Disney would purchase this other than just to own it and the rich getting richer. But let's see what the news says. So this is on Deserto by Callum Peterson saying, Activision Blizzard's share price has been in a sharp decline throughout the start of 2019, potentially making it a takeover target for the likes of Disney and Apple. Investment advisor Nick, we'll just call him Nick, thinks Walt Disney Inc. should be interested in a takeover Activision Blizzard, especially given their ties already through the Overwatch League. They already televise Overwatch League through ESPN, Disney XD, and ABC, and he thinks that the Disney's potential to take esports to TV would match perfectly with Activision's own esports projects. Disney aren't the only ones being advised to take over Activision Blizzard, as JP Morgan also highlighted the game company as potential asset for Apple back in February because it would add leverage to an industry with rapidly transitioning to mobile. Now, I don't see this as any potential good news. I think that Activision already has some pretty bad practices in terms of kind of kidifying their games, pre-designing their games for the international market and lessening the experience for their Western audience. But they go on to say, ideally, for an investor, you want this to happen now. Speaking of the potential for Disney to purchase Activision, investment firm Kawasaki already owns 90,000 Activision shares worth approximately $4.3 million. However, Disney's history with the game industry might put them off. After failed projects with Playdom and Club Penguin, now they simply license their characters to publishers like EA and EA make the games, as we've seen with the Star Wars franchise. In February, Disney CEO Bob Iger said, quote, "We've just decided that the best place for us is to be in that space is licensing and not publishing," meaning a move to take over Activision might not be in their immediate plans. Apple, however, has been taking interest in gaming up a notch. They recently announced Apple Arcade, a subscription service set to launch with over 100 original titles coming in late 2019. Despite a 43% drop in stock, Activision's market value is still at a hefty $37 billion. So it would be a major decision even for the likes of Apple or Disney. Both companies could have some serious interest, though, be it Disney's penchant for storytelling and televising transposing to esports, or Apple's interest in mobile gaming market, which continues to expand rapidly. Well, if you look at the rapid decline in the stock price, okay, let's take a look at that for a minute. Obviously, I'm not an investor, but I understand economics, at least at a macro scale. I'm not sure as an investor, if I'm Disney or iTunes, what purchasing them would do to turn that around. It might mean that you get a better deal. It might mean that you can use Activision as a publishing house for your own projects. You can say it's not always about making more money, for example. It can be a tool in your tool chest if you're Disney or Apple. Both companies could have some serious interest, though. Activision Blizzard is best known for popular titles like Call of Duty, Overwatch, and World of Warcraft. They also acquired King in 2016, which makes popular mobile game Candy Crush. Even though their share values have been in decline, they will expect an upswing later in the year as new releases come out, particularly the launch of Modern Warfare, the newest Call of Duty title. Now, we've seen early reviews around the new Call of Duty game. I think IGN gave it a 10, if I saw that right. Not that IGN is that trusted, but I mean, the buzz around the game is high. does that mean, is that enough to turn around stock prices? Because if you look at a game like Call of Duty, it's already, I would say, kind of max saturated. The people that like Call of Duty games buy them every year anyway. What about this new Modern Warfare is going to expand the market? You're not going to take this in global, given the type of game it is. Are you going to reinvigorate old audiences? We can look at World of Warcraft, for example. It's a common theme to discuss just how strongly the subscriptions in World of Warcraft have dropped off. But if we look at the most recent retail updates, they've been very positively received. Many good things. Now, Blizzard has a tendency of destroying any goodwill by then throwing in store mounts or something like that whenever they have a new expansion coming out, or whenever, say, the end of a quarter is coming up. They try to pull forward on their money. But it's an interesting question to ask. And then ultimately, if Disney or Apple were to purchase these companies, in my opinion, obviously both companies have stricter kind of family-friendly type regulations. Would they be interfering with what we see out of a Call of Duty franchise because it's a Disney property then? Would they be interfering with, would Apple be interfering with it? Because we know how Apple is in their behavior, in their interactions with free speech in the open market. Here's PC Games saying, an industry investor said that if interactive entertainment company Activision Blizzard should be put up, has said that if it is potential buyout, Disney should think about being its buyer. While it's far from confirmed that such a deal would take place, investment advisor representative Nick Licurius seems to think it would be a great fit. Now, for speculation, there seems to be an absolute bevy of news outlets covering this. If you look at Game Revolution, if you've been keeping up with recent news, you know that Disney has recently acquired Fox in one of the biggest acquisitions in recent memory. However, according to one industry investor, Disney should have its eye on Activision should it want to make another acquisition. See, the thing is, you have just this one dude mentioning it, yet everybody's treating this article like it's absolute gospel. I'm not sure that I necessarily believe it's going to happen, but it is an interesting topic to discuss because of the nature of any time you're owned by, for example, Disney or Apple, there are certain rules that you now adhere to as part of their families. Would we see all sorts of new changes have to get rolled out to the games so that they fit their brand? The Disney Activision buyout talks are something that would likely be a bit of ways away, but nonetheless an interesting thought, especially considering Disney's history with the video game industry. In a recent interview with Bloomberg, Nick stated that he thinks Disney Activision buyout would be perfect fit for Disney. I mean, just because it's a perfect fit, I don't think that means a lot. If we look at Activision stock, look what's happening just on these conversations. You wonder, if we just look at the way it's gone for 6 months, I mean, it absolutely cratered in February, but it's kind of been up and down. Here we have in May, the stock is down again, but in general, it's been trending up. It's still down. If we look at the 1 year, this is far more frightening. If you look at back in October, the share price was at $83. And now we've seen it crater out in the 40s. So yeah, close to 50% of the value. I wouldn't say that it's heading necessarily in the right direction either. Even if we look at, 5 years, we saw a steady increase in the 2016, 2017, late peaking at 2018. If we look at 5 years, right, it's never really come back. We can look at maybe in 2008 when World of Warcraft was coming out, or peaking maybe. We saw a little bit of a peak, but it's, all the way max peak in 2018. And the question is, will it ever be able to regain that? I'm not sure they can. I mean, with the re-release of World of Warcraft Classic, I think that Activision will bring back some customers. Will Call of Duty, the new Modern Warfare game, will that bring more gamers back? Sure. But how many of them have left for good? How many of them have been burned time and time again? How has the entire gaming marketplace changed? The idea that people have as much time nowadays, or maybe put better, are willing to commit as much time nowadays to an MMO isn't outside of the realm of possibility. A lot of people say, hey, MMOs are kind of a foregone thing. Nobody has time for them. Well, Final Fantasy seems to be doing excellent in their online massively multiplayer game. So maybe World of Warcraft could make a comeback. It's not going to happen overnight. I think reintroducing WoW Classic is absolutely a good move. It got me to reactivate my subscription, and I guarantee you there are thousands more. And that game, I think we're going to see it in August, if I remember right. The closed beta just ended. I had a blast. I can't wait for it to come back online. In the meantime, I'm playing retail. And I think the fact that people can bounce between retail and classic in World of Warcraft is going to bring people back into the game. And I think that the idea that people don't have the time they once did to commit to these games doesn't necessarily hold that much water. And I think people will make time for these games. As far as Disney buying it, Kotaku and Polygon think Disney would be just fine at making video games. Essentially, if you buy, a publisher, you're not making the game. It's not like Activision makes the games. They're just the publisher. The studios are the ones making the games. So I'm not sure that Disney's ineptitude at developing games is a reason not to buy it. My only concern would be that what the change would be. Would a Disney-owned company still want to release the Call of Duty franchise? Would the company, be worried about, backlash from predatory microtransactions? How about Apple? What type of, speech control would we want to see? Would we see Apple place on these games? Problematic things, although both of these companies are pretty much on the same level in terms of that. But nonetheless, it's an interesting story to follow. The Activision stock is not really doing much today. I mean, if we look at the 1 day, it has, it's peaked. I mean, overall, it's up today. Looks like it started at 45.81, and it's up a whole nickel, 45.93 maybe. So it'll be interesting to see how the market reacts to this, up 35 cents for the day, actually. So maybe people are excited about the possibility. What do you think about it? Do you think it will matter? Do you think any of this is newsworthy? I'll be interested to hear what you say in the comment section down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.